I recently read Sigmund Freud's Civilization and Its Discontents. In this book, Freud discusses his theory of sublimation. Put simply, sublimation is the process of converting erotic energy, otherwise known as the libido, into mental energy. This theory will sound familiar to anyone who is acquainted with the NoFap movement. NoFap is an online community that promotes the benefits of abstinence from masturbation. Members of this community often boast newfound powers as a consequence of their abstinence. The psychological establishment is very skeptical about these claims, but I think the daddy of psychology would be sympathetic. This video is going to outline Freud's NoFap philosophy. It is going to pay particular attention to his theory of sublimation and discuss its implications for the individual and society. In this book, Freud famously declares, civilization is built upon a renunciation of instinct. There is, in other words, an inherent conflict between civilization and instinctual pleasure. This is, on one hand, obvious. If everyone in a society began satiating their every sexual instinct without regard for the consequences, orphans would amass and sexual disease would run rampant, not to mention other, more gruesome things. It is, therefore, necessary for society to forbid certain sexual and aggressive impulses. Freud believed this suppression led to neuroticism. To quote him, a person develops neuroticism because he cannot bear the amount of suffering which society enforces upon him in living up to its cultural ideals. The central insight of psychoanalysis is that a life that goes excessively against natural impulse is one which is likely to involve a great deal of mental suffering. This begs the question, is the suffering worth it? Would our happiness improve if we gave it up and rejected civilized sexual morality? Some of Freud's followers, such as Wilhelm Reich, thought so. They believed physical and psychological health required a rejection of civilized sexual morality. If repression was lifted, they believed a healthy, happy, peaceful world would follow. Freud did not subscribe to this position. He saw the dangers of repression but didn't reject sexual morality. Instead, he argued that sexual desires should seek discharge in other ways. In other words, we should sublimate our libido for creative purposes. Sublimation is, as has already been said, the process of transmuting sexual instincts into something higher, whether it be art or inventions. To quote Freud, sublimation is an especially conspicuous feature of cultural development. It is what makes it possible for higher physical activities, scientific, artistic, or ideological, to play such an important part in civilized life. He also said, the work of civilization has become increasingly the business of men. It confronts them with ever more difficult tasks. Since a man does not have unlimited quantities of psychical energy at his disposal, he has to accomplish his tasks by making an expedient distribution of his libido. What he employs for cultural aims, he to a great extent withdraws from women and sexual life. Hence, the quote we looked at earlier has a deeper and more subtle meaning than the one I previously outlined. In order to advance civilization, we must sublimate our libido for creative purposes. Hence, civilization is built upon the renunciation of instinct. In his own life, Freud practiced sublimation. To quote his biographer, Ernest Jones, Freud held the opinion, based on personal experience and observation, that sexual activity was incompatible with the accomplishing of any great work. Since he felt that the great work of creating and establishing psychotherapy was his destiny, he told his wife that they could no longer engage in sexual relations. Indeed, from about the age of 40 until his death, Freud was absolutely celibate in order to sublimate the libido for creative purposes. Freud was a part of Never Bust Again gang. If Freud's theory of sublimation is correct, it has some pretty significant implications for society. If creativity and cultural energy requires the sublimation of the libido, then it is reasonable to assume a link between sexual morality and cultural flourishing. The anthropologist and, interestingly, atheist J.D. Unwin tested Freud's hypothesis in his book Sex and Culture, which was published in 1934. Among the 86 different societies he studied, he not only found monogamy to be correlated with a society's strength, but came to the sobering conclusion that in human records there is no instance of a society retaining its energy after a complete new generation has inherited a tradition which does not insist on prenuptial and postnuptial continence. In other words, once a society abandons sexual morality, it quickly degenerates and declines because it loses its expansive and creative energy. To quote Unwin once again, any human society is free to choose either to display great energy or to enjoy sexual freedom. The evidence is that it cannot do both for more than one generation. I'm not sure that it's that simple, but I am sure that cooming and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. If you like this video, please subscribe and please join the League of Anti-Coomers. Thanks for watching.